Hello again, guys. This is Mr. Power. This is our second screen capture, our screencast for the photosynthesis unit. What I want to do is I want to real quickly make sure that you guys understand that if you miss any questions on the assessment after each section, you need to go back and revisit it. Also, this is just like you would be doing in class. If I was up in front of you lecturing, I'd expect you to be taking notes. Likewise, I would like you to be doing it while you are watching this. This is going to be something that we need to kind of get into the routine of when we maybe start doing some of this a little bit more, once you guys have your own devices. So, what today we're going to talk about is the light-dependent reaction. Let's talk about what that means real quickly. Light whoops, let me back up. Okay, sorry about that. Light-dependent reaction. This means that it is dependent on having light there. Now, we'll talk about another reaction later on, and that one is going to be the light-independent reaction. It means that light doesn't have to be there. It doesn't matter if light's there or not. But this one is dependent on light. Okay, this is where photosynthesis starts, with capturing light. So as we get started, I want you to kind of be thinking about that. Okay, this is a section that we had on the last one, and it seems like some of you guys had some troubles with this. So I want to go back over it very, very quickly. You had a hard time being able to identify what those reactants, what those products are, and we definitely need to know this. You have to know this. So let's go through it real quickly again. We have carbon dioxide as a reactant. H2O is a reactant. Okay, they are on the left side. They are the reactants. On the right side, we have C6H12O6, better known as glucose, and we have 6 oxygens. These are our products. This is what we end up as a result. Okay, so when we're going to talk about 2 of these specifically only today, because they only take place, or they're only located in this portion of the reaction. Okay, photosynthesis is broken up into 2 parts: the light-dependent reaction and the light-independent reaction. So in this situation, we're only going to really see 2 of these in today's notes: H2O and water. Okay. Real quickly, some of the important structures in the thylakoid membrane. You do need to write these down because there's going to be some questions on them. Let's talk about, first off, photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. Now, it might seem kind of a little bit strange that photosystem 2 and photosystem 1, why didn't I put photosystem 1 and 2? Well, it's a little bit backwards, and you'll see that in a little bit. And basically, the reason why is the second photosystem 1, okay, was identified first. So they had identified, oh, this is photosystem 1, and then a little bit later on, something that happens earlier in the reaction, photosystem 2, was identified at a later date. And so they're kind of out of order, but don't worry too much about it. It's more about that you understand that what they do, their function of photosystems is to absorb light energy and convert it into electrons. Okay, absorb light. The second one, electron transport chain. Pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It does what it says in its name. It transports electrons down to other structures. Okay. 3, the hydrogen pump. It actively transports electrons up a concentration gradient. Okay, this ought to relate right back to where we were talking about last week, or last unit, and that is an important piece there, that we have a, let me try that again, concentration gradient, and it's going up the gradient. Now, if you remember anything, that is an active transport. That means that it requires energy. Okay, that's important. And then the last structure that we're going to talk about in the thylakoid membrane is the ATP synthase. It builds ATP out of an ADP and a free phosphate. So let's take a little quick right here. Remember where this is happening. Light-dependent reaction happens in the thylakoid membrane. There's a lot of you guys that miss that part. Okay, the light-dependent reaction happens in the thylakoid membrane. Okay, inside of the actual thylakoid, in this area in here, that's where the Calvin cycle, which we'll talk about, or the light-independent reaction happens. We'll talk about that at a later time. But what we're worried about today is the light reaction, the light-dependent reaction, and in that case, you can see that it's all happening right there inside the membrane. Remember that. All right, I'd like you to pause the video and go to the letsgetit.com assessment site, and you're going to want to take those questions. Please answer all questions. Don't miss any. Don't skip any. And then as soon as you're done, come back here. If you've missed one of those, go back and watch the video that we just went over, and then go ahead and extend right on through. Okay? So see you in a little bit. All right, we're back. Now it's the steps of the light reaction. Okay, so we're going to go down through the steps. Now this looks like it's fairly complicated, but I think you'll be surprised that it's not going to be quite as bad as you think. So let's go ahead and get going. The first thing we do, if you look down here, step number 1. Yep. Okay, let's look at step number 1. The photosystem 2 absorbs light. Okay, so that means that this thing is right here. Photosystem 2 is absorbing light. It's coming in. It's getting absorbed by what? That's exactly what we talked about last week. One of the types of chlorophyll. Remember, there are more than one. Several of you guys missed that. So what it does is photosystem 2, I think I said photosystem 1. It is photosystem 2, absorbs light, and it converts it into electrons. That's part number 1. Move on to step number 2. Okay, so here we have step number 2. When this does it, we've collected these electrons, and those electrons are going to be used to make a special process. And this is through the process called hydrolysis. Now if we break that word down, hydro obviously means water. Lysis means to break. I don't know if you remember that from last chapter, but to lyse means to break. So basically what we're doing is right down here, we are breaking water into 2 parts. So what are those 2 parts? Well, we have our H2O. I'm going to get rid of that and redraw. Make sure we don't draw over top of stuff. We have our H2O, okay, and it gets broken into oxygen and hydrogen. It's actually 2 oxygens leave as O2, and 4 hydrogens get sent into the lumen of the thylakoid, or the inside of the thylakoid. So where does the O2 go? It goes out into the air, and thank goodness, because that helps us breathe. Okay, next thing is those electrons then. So we have new hydrogens in there. We have a buildup of hydrogens inside the thylakoid. Our oxygens get sent out. Let's go to the next slide. And the remaining electrons that are there, they get transported down the electron transport chain. Now, it's going to come across the hydrogen ion pump. Let's think about what that means. We're going to pump from a low concentration to a high concentration. So we're going to be taking these hydrogens and we're going to be pumping them in to the thylakoid. And getting them built up on the inside. That's going to become important as we get further along. So as we come down through here, our electrons now, we've lost some of them. We've used some of them up in that process because it's an active transport. So what we're going to do is there are going to be some of them, they're still going to be transferred along. And we're going to be coming up into the PS1. Well, PS1, again, it's going to absorb light. So here comes the light, and it's going to build up those electrons again. It's going to energize them. That energy, whoops, I guess I should get to that slide. No! Okay. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to pause the video, go to the letsgetit.com assessment site, answer the questions on that, and then we will talk about Photosystem 1. All right. Now let's get back to Photosystem 1. So we've used up those electrons down in through here. We've used a lot of those up. Comes down in through the transport chain, and it's going to come into PS1. We need to re-energize it. So let's get some more light. That light's going to come in, and it's going to boost those electrons again. You know, kind of get them built up. And it has a job. Okay, it has a job to, that those electrons have a job to, let me get to the next slide, make a new molecule. We're going to take NADP, and we're going to attach a hydrogen ion from the outside out here, and there's hydrogens that are floating around out there. It's going to take an NADP and convert it into an NADPH. Okay, NADPH is very important for what we're going to use it for. It's an energy storing molecule. So those electrons get passed down and save them as an energy storing molecule. Okay, working on down to the next step. Now all we have is we have a high concentration of hydrogen ions. Okay, we've talked about here's hydrogens coming in from the water. Here's hydrogens being brought in from this pump. They get passed in. We're getting built up. We have a high concentration. Now it's ready for those hydrogens to leave. So we have the hydrogen ions, and they're going to come up through this special protein that's in the membrane called ATP synthase. If you remember that ACE, that ought to remind you is a protein, and it's an enzyme. And this enzyme, its job is to build ATP. So, high concentration of hydrogen ions, what they're going to do is they're going to come in through here. They are going to be used to carry those final electrons, also known as the final carrier, electron carrier, to ADP and a free phosphate. So we have an ADP, which is two phosphates, right? Diphosphate. And we're going to convert them into ATP, which is tri or three phosphates. We have a fully charged battery now. Okay, ATP. Now these become extremely important in the next step. Okay, pause the video, go to the letsgetit.com assessment site, take a couple questions on that, and get right back here. Finish things up. Alright, here's probably the most important understanding here. That the whole purpose of the light-dependent reaction is this right here. ATP and NADPH. Okay? They are both energy storing molecules. The whole purpose of the light reaction, or the light dependent reaction, is that they are sent on to the independent reaction. Okay? Sorry, I had to back up. They are sent on to the independent reaction. That's going to be incredibly important. It's what fuels the whole rest of this process. If it wasn't for us being able to capture the sun's light and capture them in those energy storing molecules, there's no way for us to be able to move on to the next step. We'll talk about that later on in the week. So let's do a quick summary. Light is absorbed by chlorophyll and converted into electrons. In order to, the first thing we did was we split water, pumped hydrogen ions in. We build NADPH with them. We use hydrogen ions to build up ADP and ATP. We build NADP, or take the NADPH and ATP and used to fuel the light independent reaction, and O2 is released as a waste product. Alright guys, that's it.